So good evening and welcome to the Neighborhood Passions Affinity Network presented by Google Fiber and Neighbor to Neighbor. My name is Jim Hawk and I'm the Executive Director of Neighbor to Neighbor and your host this evening. Tonight, we're focusing on one of the 8 key neighborhood passions, neighborhood safety. Our topic tonight is, what is a safe neighborhood? Recently, Neighbor to Neighbor conducted our annual Census of Neighborhood Organizations. And what we found was that neighborhood safety was the #2 issue facing our local neighborhoods. Tonight, we're going to discuss, what are the top concerns that you have about neighborhood safety, and also what neighborhood safety means to you. And so this is going to be an opportunity for us to have that conversation. And I invite you, as you're willing and able, to join in that conversation with us tonight. Just a little bit of background. When we did the Census of Neighborhood Organizations last spring, it's taken us a while to compile all the data. But the number one issue facing neighborhoods today, almost categorically, is development. And we had a lot of different ways on how development is impacting our neighborhood, but it certainly is. And we've been having multiple conversations about development throughout this past year, and those will continue on. The number two issue is neighborhood safety. And when we looked at neighborhood safety, it really fell into two categories, two major categories. The first category that was hit was we put into what we call reckless driving. And reckless driving is speeding through neighborhoods, failing to stop at stop signs, drag racing, all of those dangerous things that drivers aren't supposed to do, but they seem to be doing in our neighborhoods. The second category is property theft and vandalism. And that is just as high. Interestingly enough, it has seemed to change over the years. Today we're really talking almost about porch piracy, packages being stolen off of porches and out of cars, and that seems to be the real issue. To start us off tonight, I would really love to know from you how neighborhood safety is affecting your neighborhood. What are the issues that you're facing where you live?
I think that in Glencliff, we're finding pretty much the same thing, especially with the traffic and we're near 24 and 40, and all the interstates are just really right here. So all those apps help direct people right through our neighborhoods, and they are not the least bit concerned. And that of course is a problem, that Metro doesn't have a lot of money to spend on things that we'd like to see, like speed humps and things like that. We also just have every night somebody walking through the neighborhoods, going through cars, checking for change and guns and whatever else they can find. And that's an easy enough issue if people would lock their cars and take their weapons inside with them, but they don't seem to do that. I don't think we have anything unusual over here that any other part of the city doesn't have. We are hearing more gunfire at night than we have ever heard in the past, and so that's concerning. But we also hear Metro right behind them, so we know they're working on it.
Thank you, Sherry. That's good to hear. Someone else, what's going on in your neighborhood? How's neighborhood safety happening?
Around the Murfreesboro Road area, there has been a lot of theft, murders, those type of issues. I think a lot of it has to do with drugs. The drugs circling around Fessler's Lane and all that has just kind of came down to us and where we are.
And Sheila, you're working as a neighborhood watch. What's your organization doing to combat some of that?
I've tried to get everyone involved in drug prevention. I'm doing a drug prevention class, not this Saturday, but I think next Saturday at Arlington Church. I'm just trying to spread awareness, because if the person doesn't want help, I can't force them to get help.
Yeah.
And that's what we're kind of running into. We're running into those people that are like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I don't care what anybody says. So yeah, that's kind of been our main issue. Other than that, it's just petty theft, breaking into cars, that kind of stuff. We haven't really had any reckless driving.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. What's going on in your part? Who wants to let us know what's going on in your neighborhood?
Well, in my neighborhood, if there's any illegal activity occurring, it's usually at night with what sounds like motorcycles or sometimes cars being driven back and forth on Buchanan Street. Despite the efforts to try to slow the traffic, there seems to be a reoccurring problem with some motorists and motorcyclists turning a narrow street into a drag strip at night. There's occasional gunfire. Generally speaking, the nearby streets are going through a quiet period. There was a time when Cephas had the reputation of being the illegal pharmacy of North Nashville, and it was very scary and dangerous then. And it would go through certain periods of quietness and then activity, then quiet, then activity. Right now, it's in its quiet phase. Most people seem to be comfortable with walking their pets and walking otherwise through the neighborhood, but I don't see that type of activity happening much at night. Most people are indoors by that time.
Thank you. Thank you, Thomas.
You're welcome.
Ray, I saw you were about ready to respond.
Yeah, in my area, I guess within half a mile to a mile of where I live, 2 older women were assaulted, and it was in the daytime. It was nighttime. And one of them, the guy was trying to get her purse, and the other got her car. So that's a concern, especially because I am older, and it was daytime when these things happened. I also know for a fact there's a lot of drug activity going on here in this neighborhood. Part of it, I think, is brought on by some of the homeless that are camped out in Centennial Park. But I think it's others that are availing themselves of the drug dealers. I mean, I can pretty much see the deals going on. I have alerted the police department, the precinct here at the 12th on 12 South, the what is it,
Midtown Hills.
Midtown Hills,
Yeah.
yeah. I've alerted the police department, and recently the sergeant there sent me information about starting a neighborhood watch. So I am going to try and get some of the other high-rise and mid-rise buildings here in this neighborhood to get the people interested, because I don't walk my dog much later than 8 o'clock at night, because I'm afraid.
I used to live over in your neck of the woods, and it gets a little bit scary there after dark.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else? What's going on in your neighborhood? What are the major neighborhood safety issues?
I've been in my neighborhood for 25 years now, and I've seen a tremendous change. We're right off of an exit for I-40. There's a lot of kind of shady motels right there when you get off the exit, and a lot of drug activity and a lot of crime, I think, based on that, a lot of panhandling. And we had a shootout right there at noon 2 weeks ago. It's just changed a lot, and it is really frightening.
It sounds scary. And Debbie, is your neighborhood organization doing anything to address these issues, or what are they doing to address these issues?
As far as I know, we don't really have a neighborhood organization. A lot of us are on a neighborhood Facebook group and kind of communicate to one another when we know something's going on. We hear the Metro helicopters frequently surrounding our neighborhood, so we, go on the active dispatch to see what's going on and kind of let each other know, but it's very informal.
Hey, Debbie, what part of Donaldson is that around? Is that around the Priest Lake?
It's Larchwood, right by the dam, like where the Thorntons and the Shell station are.
Yes, we are currently working on that. It's just gonna be a long process, but we are definitely working on that.
So Sheila,
Good to know.
That's your area, Sheila?
Yes, that is my area.
And how, when you talk about working on it, what does that mean for you?
We're just working on figuring out how we can stop the drugs and all the issues that have been going on. We've had human trafficking at one of those motels. So we're trying to kind of control the hotels at this point.
And I think that's the biggest part of it, is those hotels.
Yeah, nothing else has really been confirmed, but I can say we are working on it. We are definitely working on it, and I will not be quiet until those hotels get restricted or shut down. Something needs to be done, because I grew up in Donaldson. I don't like to see what's happening over there. It's sad.
Yeah. Thanks, Anita. Anita, while you were talking, Sheila, Anita put into the chat that she had, because her mic's not working, that Greenwood in East Nashville has a lot of vehicle theft. In the news today, there was shoplifting or looting at Young's Fashion on Gallatin Road. They have lots of packages stolen and guns stolen from cars. So that's, yeah. I think we got almost everybody. Tom, welcome. Glad you're here tonight. We're talking about what's going on in our neighborhoods. What are the major safety issues that neighborhoods are facing these days? And we've heard a lot tonight about everything from speeding and reckless driving over to theft, to murder. And all of these things are very concerning for us as neighbors. And we struggle with them to develop some sort of a strategy in our neighborhoods to address those. And so I'm really pleased that Ray has stepped up and said that she wants to start a crime watch program. We have one of my long-term neighborhood leaders that we work with here at Neighbor to Neighbor, Gina Coleman, was facing these very same problems 15 years ago, and realized that the only real way to address these issues is for residents to come together, not as vigilantes, but residents to come together and work with the police to resolve the issues. And that still works today. Although we are a much larger city and our police force has not grown with the expansion of our city. And so we do have that challenge. There is decreased response time. And the police are working as hard as they can, but there is decreased response time because there are so many things happening. And so we have that issue around as well. I want to check in with everybody just to see, Sherry started out the conversation, I think, talking about cars and theft in cars, and that people aren't at all not a lot of people aren't locking their doors to their cars and they're leaving guns in it. Has anybody been working on efforts to educate their neighbors about the importance of locking their cars?
I have been working with Metro Police on getting signs around like apartments, hotels, on lock your gun, lock your car, take your keys, take your gun, don't leave anything valuable in your car. But we have so many apartments and hotels in Nashville now that we don't have enough signs.
Yeah. This is true.
So every chance I get, I try to get a few out.
Yeah, one of the concerns that I see frequently happening, and I'm wondering how we can do a better job of this, and it may be neighborhood organizations coming together and working together across Davidson County. There really is a issue of communication. I don't know about you, but when I go to my neighborhood meeting, almost every time that I am in that meeting, the police officer making the presentation says, lock your cars, take all your valuables out, right? I'm not quite sure. And my guess is that most of the people attending those meetings are already doing that. And one of the things that we've really got to work on, and Sheila, I'm glad you're trying to do something with this, is getting that message beyond the meeting room walls. And how can we do that? And I was thinking about that the other day, and I do think I'm sorry, did someone have a comment they want to make? Okay, I saw something light up there for a second. One of the things that I think we can do is use social media much more effectively and to our advantage. There are out there some great graphic images that encourage people to lock the car doors. Being able to use those in social media, in your social media website, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I think most people use Nextdoor, Facebook. Putting those on there at least once a week is a pretty good deal. And mixing them up is really important. And allowing them to be shareable is also important. So that if you are, if I am seeing that Sheila sends me does a post on locking car doors, I'm able to share that with my network of people in my Facebook. That expands the message. If I'm not allowed to share the post, then that means it's just limited to that number of people. So that's one thing. I think we also need to be mindful of our email communications that we send out to the larger group of people when we do our meeting reminders. Or if we have a newsletter that we send out, one of the things that we need to be attaching is the reminder about locking doors. I know that's very simple, but unfortunately, a lot of the neighborhood organizations that I've talked with don't even do that. And that just prevents that message from getting out. And I realize that Metro has PSAs that they send out, that they reminding people about locking their cars. But people respond better when it's someone that they know sending the message out. So if your neighborhood organization is doing that and they know who you are, that is one advantage of that. If you're sending out an email and reminding people to lock their doors, that is another step that you can take to do that. If you live in an area where, you know, in your neighborhood is relatively small, and you have the capacity to do it, the police have been doing a really good job of putting up signs in some areas, telling people to lock their doors, reminding people to lock their doors, right? But if you could get 5 or 6 of those signs and move them around, don't just plant them and keep them for 3, 4, 5 months in one area, but move them around within your neighborhood. That's another good reminder for people to see that. What we're trying to do, all of us together, isn't just stopping car theft. It's really cultural change. And we're really trying to make our neighborhoods a safer place to do that, to live. And one of the things to do that is to raise people's consciousness to the point where they understand that the actions that they take it can positively or negatively impact the neighborhood. So if everybody's locking doors on their street, that street becomes a place where people just don't go because they know, and the word spreads, that street, everybody locks their doors. But if you can go back to that street week after week after week, and there are doors that are unlocked, that's a good neighborhood to go to, and I'm going to be there. So that's something that we've got to do. The other thing that is also helpful is if you know of a specific area in your neighborhood where the activity is happening, to create a small batch of flyers that can be distributed to those neighborhoods. So if there is a street where it seems like theft is happening a lot, or break-ins are happening a lot, a wise thing to do would be make sure that a message gets sent to those neighbors saying, hey, this is happening, take action. That does one other thing. In addition to reminding people that they need to lock their doors, in addition to reminding people they need to be pay attention to what's going on, it also sends the message that your neighborhood organization cares about them. And one of the things that we try to do as a neighborhood organization is not just keep it to 2 or 3 members, but really build our membership up to where there's a lot of people participating in the life of the organization. people don't want to participate in an organization that doesn't care about them. They want to participate in an organization that they know has their back. And so as a neighborhood organization, if you're finding ways to give your neighbors important information and to help them to be safer, then they're going to care about you. And that probably means, at the very least, they're going to be more supportive of your organization and thinking about it, but maybe even that they are attending that organization and getting involved. So that, to me, that's a really important function of what we're trying to do. I'm going to stop talking for a minute and let people catch up and share their thoughts. This is a quiet group tonight.
What about the main streets, the busier streets like Murfreesboro Road, Briley Parkway, Bell Road, all those main streets? Because I see once you get onto those streets, the car thefts, the break-ins, and all that starts going up.
Mm. Anybody have a thought about that?
Yeah, it's convenient. I mean, they're off of main roadways. It's not necessarily your neighbors ripping you off, but people driving through the area on those main streets who come in right off, and they have easy access to grab and go and get back on a main street and take off quickly. People just have to be vigilant and want to protect their stuff. You know, we're talking about trying to reach out to the neighbors, and that's something that's been really hard over the 18 years that I've been here with Glencliff and being involved. And we've left flyers on mailboxes and things, and we find those mostly end up on the ground. I think things like this, getting on our own Facebook pages, in our groups, and doing a video. I mean, none of us necessarily like our face out there all over the place, or, you know, feel like opening ourselves up to criticism. But I think that this is one way of face-to-face that you put on your Facebook page that says, these things are happening, these are some suggestions, this is what Metro suggests, might actually convey to them that we do care about our neighbors, that we're putting ourselves out there, and that we're talking to them about what's going on. It might open a bigger conversation within the neighborhoods. I don't do Twitter and stuff. It might be that I should go ahead and learn how.
I doubt it. You know, I've learned that Facebook and Nextdoor are the tools of most neighbors. Twitter seems to be for government officials and people that want to be recognized by those groups.
Okay.
And having larger political conversations, right? And that doesn't seem to be where most neighborhoods are.
Okay. So is doing a video like this something neighborhood Nextdoor would allow? I mean, I'm on Nextdoor, but I've never actually seen anybody post a video other than
Yes.
Brian Bells.
Yes,
Okay.
you can do that. Yeah. Yeah. And you know, one of the things that we've been thinking a lot about social media lately, I would, if I was actually responsible for something in my neighborhood, which this job prevents me from doing, but if I was actually able to do something in my neighborhood, I would be out there capturing video of as many residents as I can, just asking the question, you know, a couple questions. You know, what do you like about your neighborhood? What's neighborhood safety mean to you? And not doing like a 30-minute documentary where someone just answers all those questions, but taking those little segments and sharing them from time to time, so that there's a conversation going on out there in the online world, in the virtual world, that people can pick up when they're interested in it. The reality is that Facebook and the way their algorithms work, very few of your posts are actually getting to your neighbors, right? So if you have 100 people following you, maybe you're lucky that 10 of them are actually seeing your post. But the good thing is, if they see your post and they decide to go to your Facebook page, which they've already liked, but if they go there, then they can begin exploring and seeing all these videos that talk about your neighborhood. And those videos are one way to begin to create a different culture for your neighborhood. Trying to figure out what people find to be important, talking about the concerns people have for their neighborhood. You know, I think we're missing a great opportunity in Nashville for not using it, for not doing more with beautification and litter control, by doing this exact same thing, by having people around the city say, you know, stop. Or whatever word it is, right? You know, stop and explain, you know, and talk about how important it is. Because
I think it would be great if we brought back the don't be Tennessee trash or don't trash Tennessee,
yeah,
because there has been psychology research behind it with the don't mess with Texas, don't trash Texas
yeah,
slogan, and it actually helped.
yeah.
So I say we should bring back don't be Tennessee trash or whatever.
In our neighborhood, we have, and you all probably too, we have a hard time getting our grass mowed in the mediums, and then we have the panhandlers putting the trash out and stuff. And so we have applied through beautification to get wildflower seeds, thanks to that lovely wildflower Zoom that you did a couple of times ago, to get all these free wildflower seeds that we're going to mow the grass down to the ground and throw out the wildflower seeds. And next year, instead of a bunch of weeds growing up, we hope to have a very pretty medium up there at Thompson Lane and South Lake, and down here at Thompson Lane and Nolansville Road that always looks trashy. So that's one alternative that doesn't really cost a whole lot for a community if you want to do some beautification.
Yeah.
I'll have a little avocado chip. Okay.
I want to turn real quick to another neighborhood safety issue, because I think it's not normally thought of, because usually we're so focused on criminal activity. And that is the increase that we are having in our cities around climate. And whether it's tornadoes, flooding, derechos, all of those things that for whatever reason, they are beginning to happen more frequently. And they are impacting our neighborhoods more and more each time. And one of the things that we have realized, you know, I've been out, I don't know whether you've had an opportunity to do it, but when there's a disaster, neighbor to neighbor actually goes into the neighborhoods where those disasters have happened. And so we go out and we see what's there, and you know, the devastation is just, you know, the worst place that I have been in the last 2 years is actually out in the Donaldson Hermitage area, with all the houses that were just absolutely flattened to the foundation, not just one, but, you know, tens and tens of houses all over the place, just flattened. And I bring this up because when I talk to neighborhood organizations about this issue, we are simply not prepared for it. And yeah, Ray, go ahead.
So when I used to live on Long Island, we had a program that actually my daughters and I went through because of hurricanes and things like that, you know, and it was called CERT, and it stood for Citizen Emergency Response, and I forget what
Teams.
teams.
Yep.
And so what they wanted to do was to empower the people in the area, and they trained you on CPR. They you were expected to be a resource for supplies like water and and canned goods and things, for losing power. For instance, during Sandy, we lost power for 2 weeks on Long Island. And so we were part of this CERT program. And I've noticed there is a CERT program here in Nashville. And I'm sure all my certifications for the CPR and everything are gone. So I was actually thinking of doing it simply, in my building. I'm in a mid-rise. There's about 36 apartments here. So if I could get a couple of other people interested in the program, then we could take care of ourselves in this building.
And thank you, Ray. Yeah, that program, the CERT program, is an excellent program.
It is an
to go
excellent
through.
program. I think it's federally granted too.
It
It's-
is.
It's a federally granted program, and it was really informative. I mean, they taught you how to tag people who needed emergency care, or if they could wait, or if they were deceased. They taught you everything that
Mhm.
you needed to know to help and to be a part of the solution in an emergency. It was a really good program.
It's an excellent program, and what, unfortunately, what we have not done, and again, this goes back to neighborhood organizations showing care for their members, right? For the residents of their neighborhood. Um, Simple things that we can do during different seasons. So, as we come into the heavy rainy season, or if we come into the tornado seasons, um, putting up social media posts, but also sending out in our newsletters and emails reminders of what to do if there's a tornado, helping people to understand what they need to put into a to-go bag, helping people remember that their rent lease, their bank information, all of that needs to be somewhere in duplicate form away from where they live, so that if there's a problem, they can access it if there's a flood. And these are all important things that we can do as neighborhood organizations to really help people be safe. And so I'd like you to think about that. I certainly think that the CERT program is one of the best programs for really being actively engaged in that work. Neighbor to Neighbor has two programs that we now offer. One is an introduction, a basic introduction to neighborhood preparedness and response. How does a neighborhood organization prepare and respond to disaster? And then one that is sort of, I guess, a pre-CERT. CERT sort of does some very specific things, but our other course is a course that helps neighborhood organizations develop a plan for how their neighborhood organization will respond in a disaster. And there's a new neighborhood emergency action teams, which can be created as well. And one of the requirements for those neighborhood emergency action teams is to go through the CERT training. And so that's how that piece fits into this. But I do think that when we're talking about neighborhood safety, we really do have to think not just about criminal activity,
Yeah, right.
but also think about disasters. Go ahead, Ray.
What I was going to say was the point of CERT was so that you can relieve some of the burden on the fire department and the police department, and that you were more or less kind of taking care of yourselves.
Yep.
And that was their and help if they needed help, with injuries and things like that. But basically, they wanted you to, to on your block. It got down to that point where you on your block, that you and your neighbors could be self-sufficient for a day or 2 or 3 until the police or the fire department or the electric company could get to you.
What season would you say we are in, Jim? Would it be like snow preparedness or rain preparedness?
We're moving into cold weather. And when we talk about the cold weather, we're talking about extreme cold. One of the things that we really got to focus in our neighborhoods are people living on fixed incomes, particularly seniors. I personally know a senior who, to me, I would not imagine this, but she has chosen to turn off her gas because it saves her some money. In a cold weather emergency, those little radiators that you can plug in just won't do it. And so, thinking about that as far as a neighborhood plan, what are we going to do when it gets below, whatever temperature we want over an extended period of time? Do we have a plan for caring for our neighbors who might need help? So that you are correct. Ice storms. Not now, but as we enter into January, that could be a serious concern for us. And now's the time to be preparing for that. And one of the things that we say about these to-go bags that you're to create, while they work great in floods, if you come up on an emergency where your power is off for 2 or 3 days, you really have to figure out where you're going to go, how you're going to live, and having those bags ready to go is one great thing to do. Yeah. We're talking about neighborhood safety and all of its many forms. Is there something here that we haven't talked about tonight that you really want us to hit on?
I think park safety, was really the eye catcher. I was like, oh, okay. So I don't know if you heard about what's going on at Azafran Park, but
go ahead and tell us. Not all of us are from your part of town.
But drugs have pretty much taken over the playground area, which as a child, I didn't have to come home until the street lights were on. We had more freedom. But now it's like we're getting to the point of stay home. It's the safest thing we can do. Stay on your own property. I just hate the fact that there's drugs and all this crime going on around our parks. I went to Seven Oaks to practice driving one time, and I immediately turned right around because I was getting so many shady vibes from that place. I was seeing drug deals going on and a lot of other stuff that I shouldn't have seen, let alone a kid or a toddler.
Can I say something about the Casa Azafran thing?
Yes.
Okay, so what has happened over there is actually the homeless have gone in and taken over the park, and the park also has a water area where the kids could, turn on the water and be under a sprinkler. So they have been stripping naked and taking showers there. There is some landscaping that helps block that from Nolansville Road, but this park is right on the road. So they've gone in, Metro's gone in and removed all the benches so that they can't sleep there. And the mayor went over the other day to make a plan for getting the park cleared out and having some downtime for it so that it can be returned to what it was designed to do. So at the very least, Metro is on that situation, but it's a homeless situation. They're going to go where they can live, where they can have water, where, you know, where their needs can be met. And the parks will always be an issue as long as we have homeless, because that's the only place they have to go to set up, you know, to set up camps where there might be some other facilities that they need.
And we can't get on the same page about the homeless.
No, we can't.
One side wants to buy them homes and everything, and the other side is like, no, they need a mental health evaluation. They need to go through a certain process to get the home. There's got to be a way that we can meet in the middle on this. Take care of our homeless issue and move forward so that our neighborhood parks and community centers can become safer and a more kid-friendly environment.
Yeah, the homeless situation is really, I don't believe how this city just, you know, I know everybody's got rights, but it's not healthy. It's not normal to live in the streets. And, you know, they need to intervene, you know, in some ways that, you know, they have to get clean or whatever before they give them a house. I mean, you know, they have to prove that they can take care of themselves and the house. You can't just give people a house.
And I think it's I've been around enough listening to talk about youth, just teenagers, right? I've heard people in the past basically say if they see teenagers on a street corner, they're causing trouble. And what we have to remember is not all teenagers are not one monolithic group of people with the same behaviors and the same attitudes. And the same is true for our homeless population, right? Not every homeless person is a drug addict. Not every homeless person is trying to steal money or trying to con you out of money. But the problem is overwhelming in the city right now. And I cannot go anywhere in Davidson County without seeing people who are homeless on the street somewhere, you know, in tent or walking along asking for money. And you know, I remember 2 years ago being in Portland, Oregon, and riding in I don't know what the valley's called where you come in from the airport, but just seeing on either side of the hills tent after tent after tent, and then being in Portland and just seeing people walking all over. And we have a serious problem.
Yes, we do.
Needs to be addressed.
I mean,
and yeah,
people, I mean, they're using our sidewalks as toilets, you know, they're defecating, I mean, some of it is people who are not picking up after their dogs, but some of it you can tell is not a dog, you know, and it's not healthy for anybody.
I mean, I don't mind the homeless. It's just the drug use and just the ways of living on the streets are now. It's out of hand. And that's why I do think there needs to be some kind of mental health evaluation, maybe some trauma counseling, something like that, to guide them away from what they learned from the streets. Because what they're learning on the streets is if you shoot up, you're going to feel better. It takes all the pain away. But really, your body's going to start wanting more and more and more and more. And it's going to start a bad cycle.
But again, I would just want to stress that not all homeless people are doing drugs on our streets, right?
Yeah.
Right. It is a percentage. And that is really important. And not all homeless people are mentally ill. But at the same time, I want to really quickly say, because I worked in the homeless ministries many years ago, being homeless is a traumatic experience. And it really messes with emotion and mental stability. And having that support is so important to be able to turn around and move from that. Not that anybody, one thing I learned years ago, I could count in my hand the number of people who actually wanted to live on the street. Right? Most people do not choose to live on the street. That's where their life options have led them. And so we have got to find a way to give people options for finding a way back out, or for finding a way out, because some of these are children, right? Who've never, some have never known anything but the street. And we've got to figure out a way to make sure that they find a way out and into a safer world. Because not only will that help them, it's going to help us to be better. Because that stress of seeing people on the street all the time does impact us. We too are emotionally scarred from seeing that because we know it's not right. And we know the world should be a better place. So, well, hey, this has been a great conversation. I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. It is 7:15, and I try to keep my promise to always let us out on time. Next week, we're starting some thinking around sustainable neighborhoods. What is a sustainable neighborhood, and how do we create them? And I am just a beginner in this topic, but we've invited some of our nonprofit partners who are really engaging in this work to work with us. We would love for you to be here because we are thinking about ultimately offering a leadership certificate in sustainable neighborhoods. So we would like to hear what you have to say about that, as well as our subject experts, as we call them.
Would that be free?
It is free. Yeah, all Thursday night, come Thursday nights, all of these sessions are free. I'm not going to be here Thanksgiving. I won't I won't come out on Thanksgiving. But almost every Thursday night we're here, and it's a different topic every week. So
all right, I'll send it to our sustainable living community organizer.
Oh, good. Very good. Thank you. Friends, I want to thank you for being here and taking time out of your busy night. I know that neighborhoods are important to you, and I'm sure you know, as I do, that great neighborhoods don't happen by accident. They only happen when good neighbors like you and me and all of us together work to create positive change right where we live. So have a safe week, and I'll look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Pam.
Bye.